My parents were living in an assisted living program, and as their health deteriorated, my dad's was deteriorating, my mom's was deteriorating, but my mom was getting worse, and she had to, the best care for her at that time was to move her into a nursing home.
When she first moved into the nursing home, she had suffered a couple of strokes, mini strokes, and that in effect did cause her to become more confused, and she was not as knowledgeable or as perky as she had been before, and seemed to be more dependent upon some assistance. She couldn't really take care of herself as much as she did earlier.
When my mother needed to go to the restroom, she would have to ask for help to go in. She could not walk by herself. She did walk with a walker, but she still needed assistance with the walker. And so she needed to be attended to almost every minute that she had to get up from her chair.
As time went on, her needs for assistance grew and grew, even to the point that when she had to go to the restroom, she couldn't go by herself. And the aides or nurse, whoever was available, had to assist her there. She couldn't go by herself. And even to the point also that she had to be assisted the entire time she was in the restroom.
One day I got a phone call at work from the nursing home saying that my mom had a fall. I asked if I should leave work, and the nurse had called me, said no, it wasn't really necessary at this time. We've got her laying down and she's comfortable. The four of us, my brother's wife, my wife, and my brother, we met at the nursing home, and we saw that she was much worse off than I was led to believe on the phone.
Well, I immediately went over to the home, and his wife went there too, met her, and then he showed up, of course, too. And we found my mother in bed in a great deal of pain, and I don't know why the nurse said that everything is okay, it's not that bad, because she was definitely in pain and moaning, and it just looked worse than what we were led to believe.
When we first arrived at the nursing home, we found my mom laying down, moaning in pain. We asked the head nurse what happened, and she explained that my mom had to go to the restroom, and again she needed to be monitored and attended with at all times. And the nurse told us that the aide left her and then came back and found her as she fell. The doctor took an x-ray of my mom's injury, which ended up being a broken hip, and the doctor decided, was leaving it up to my brother and I whether to have surgery or not. The doctor did not think she would survive the surgery at her age and her condition. So we decided that it would be best to just let nature take its course and try and keep her as comfortable as possible, and to keep her on pain medication.
This trying period kept going on for about, I guess, close to 2 weeks, and we as a tight family were there all the time, and this went on for 2 weeks, and eventually she passed on. My brother, his wife, and my wife, and my brother's daughter were there, and it was, to say the least, it was an emotional event to see her pass on the way she did, knowing full well that she didn't have to go this way.
We were referred to an attorney who, after he heard what took place, recommended that we go to David Terry, who knows more about this line of injuries than he did. And we met with David. My brother, his wife, and my wife met with David, and we told him everything that occurred during the time at the nursing home. and we asked a lot of questions. He answered all of our questions. We had conference calls when different other questions came up later. They were answered quickly. David returned our calls. Whenever we had a call into him, he returned our calls immediately. David's staff was very good with working with us as well.
One of the fine attributes that David has was demonstrated when the first time he called me back, because he was calling me from his cell phone at his child's soccer game, and he did give me his cell phone number too, to make sure that I was able to reach him at any time. And that's another thing. David was very accessible, and he or his staff would respond to our inquiry very quickly, and again, keeping us informed as to what was going on, and again, no surprises.
David informed us that there were liens involved with Medicare with this case, and he and his staff work aggressively to try to resolve these liens, and did very, very well for us in resolving the situation.
As this was my very first case like this, I didn't know really what to expect, and I had no idea the different elements, a variety of outcomes that could occur. And for instance, the liens from Medicare, we had no idea that that was such an issue. But even though David had helped us to give us a good, clean, clear settlement, we still had that lien situation hanging over us. And thank goodness for David and his staff, their persistency and their tenacity. This was solved within a reasonable amount of time, as much as he could control anyway. And we are very pleased with the outcome, and know that we couldn't have done any better.